Now, this session in which a very major topic to be discussed on, and the topic which we will be discussing here would be supply chain management key to agriculture development in Odisha. Very eminent persons to be there on the dais, taking their names one by one. I'll request each and every gentleman and the ladies here to please have a huge round of applause for all these gentlemen. Well, the first name here is Shri Rajesh Verma, IAS Principal Secretary Agriculture. Sir, may I please have you on the dais? Shri Madhusudan Padi, Secretary Department of Food Supplies and Consumer Welfare. Shri D.K. Mishra, DGM NABARD. Shri R.K. Swai, DGM Canara Bank. Can I have a bit of more of clappings here? Thank you so much. And the last but never the least name is Shri Dinesh Kumar, DGM Allahabad Bank. Now, I'll request one of my beloved friend, Ms. Tanmay, to please hand over the bouquets to all these gentlemen. Session, we have our moderator, Shri Dinesh Kumar, DGM. I'll just hand over this mic to him.
In this first technical session, the topic we have is supply chain management, a key to agricultural development to Odisha. We have got the eminent panel with us, which includes Shri Rajesh Verma, IAS Principal Secretary Agriculture, Shri M.S. Padi, IAS Commissioner cum Secretary Food Supplies and Consumer Welfare, Shri B.K. Mishra from NABARD, Shri R.K. Swain, DGM Canara Bank. We will be deliberating on this issue through our panel. Before we invite our eminent panelists to deliberate on the issue, I would like to set the motion for the topic. As we all know, agriculture is a cause of global concern, especially because of its volatility and growing concern for food security, increasing mismatches between supply of agricultural products for food, feed and fuel in relation to growing demand, the climatic changes which are exerting pressure on agricultural production. Thus, enhancing agriculture production and productivity has emerged as a challenge. In the context of Odisha, let me mention, Odisha is an agrarian state. Almost 70% population of the state is dependent on agriculture, contributing about 20% of the gross state domestic product, resulting in low per capita income in the farm sector. Consequently, there is a large disparity between the per capita income in the farm sector and the non-farm sector. Therefore, it is essential to deal with the issues which impact the income level of farmers. The state of Odisha has been lagging behind the national economy and highlighting the necessity of achieving higher growth on a sustainable manner across the sectors, particularly in the agriculture sector. The agriculture in the state requires high investment in agriculture infrastructure and an efficient supply chain management. How to address the issues related to supply chain management, that is of critical inputs like seeds, fertilizers, appropriate cost-effective farm mechanization, appropriate post-harvest arrangement to tackle incidents of distress sale, how to synergize the efforts of farmers, more particularly small and marginal farmers, especially in relation to supply chain management. We all know that agriculture production, besides its seasonality, since time immemorial, have been subject to uncertainty of weather, susceptibility, disease, and pest. These adversities are nightmare for the farmers as well as the consumers. Supply chain management is essentially a process to mitigate these limitations. The participants in supply chain management, supply chain typically support three major types of flows. First is physical products like inputs, supplies to farmers. Second is financial, and third is information. Efficiency of logistics are a critical part of these flows, which essentially means again three things. First is the infrastructure, primarily road. This requires good deal of investment. Investors hesitate because investment happens to be large and return are spread over a fairly long period. Second, the market for logistic services. I would like to mention a few points for the consideration of the panelists. In agriculture, risks associated with logistic services under supply chain management are high. especially for perishable agricultural commodities or for those products in which timely market deliveries is a key feature. For example, risk of loss of product quality due to a breakdown in logistics are high for trade in fruits, vegetables, flowers and fish, etc. This requires very high level of technical and managerial efficiency as well as financial investment. Logistics are highly fragmented, like separate providers for trucking, brokerage and warehousing. Consolidated providers may be good choice, but it has its own prerequisites. The greatest source of logistic risk are poor means of transportation, road or rail or ships. Communication linkages, the cell phones has shown how farmers can better manage their access to market, services and intermediaries, but much is needed to be done in terms of access to information and its processing for their benefit. One can argue that public sector, which for all practical purposes means government, can handle these issues better. But the question is, what is trade-off? Government can give budgetary, but how long? What about the risk of high fiscal deficit? In case of the private sector, the issue is of domestic capital or foreign capital. Of course, if domestic capital is forthcoming, nothing better than that. But if it is not, for various reasons ranging from low risk taking capacity to low technical efficiency, then what next? An endless wait for our foreign capital. I just wish that the panel discussion leads to some positives in such a way that agriculture gets its due in the state by facilitating multi-cropping through better supply chain management in which government may play a constructive role. That leads to the third point, that is procedural and regulatory environment. In this regard, state government needs to relook at its various acts pertaining to agriculture properties, financing charge on land and recovery of dues to facilitate a better climate for financing in this sector. The diligence, transparency and efficiency is the key, but often government agencies are accused of being insensitive. This perception has to be changed with swift and judicious actions. These are a few points which I am sure that our panelists will be taking into consideration while deliberating on the issue. Now I would like to first invite the first panelist, Shri Rajesh Verma, IAS Principal Secretary Agriculture. Sir.
Dignitaries on the dais and dear delegates. The tone has been set by a very brilliant introduction by the speaker preceding me. Agriculture sector, it's a cliche, is very important for the food and nutritional security of the country. This sector employs more than 60% of the population in Odisha, and similar is the case if we take the all India picture. Now compared to other countries, we face greater challenge because whereas we share only 2.3% of the world's total land area, we have to ensure food security for about 17.5% of the total world population. So there is excessive pressure on land and fragmentation of the land holdings. The Indian agriculture sector is witnessing a major shift from traditional farming to the modern agriculture practices, including horticulture and even also in the allied sector like meat, poultry, and dairy products. All these are perishable commodities. The demand for these products is also growing, owing to change in the consumption habits of the consumers. Due to increase in the demand, there is need for diversification and value addition. These are the key things which have to be addressed by the Indian agriculture policymakers. However, as pointed out earlier, we face many challenges, and infrastructure connecting various partners right from producer to consumer is really weak and needs to be strengthened. Each stakeholder, from farmer to traders including wholesalers, right up to the retail chain, the food manufacturers, generally they work in silos. So that is why we are a very relevant topic, supply chain management. Demand forecasting is what is very important and critical, because otherwise our farmers, they try to push whatever they produce. And in these various factors, data integration, financial flow management, supply demand matching, information sharing, goods movement synchronization through various efficient modes of transportation. These are very critical issues which need to be addressed. Some of the other weaknesses are inefficient price signals, limited reach of the mandis which we have in our system, too many intermediaries, there is information asymmetry, inadequate infrastructure for storage, including cold storage. These are some of the issues in the supply chain management. Supply chains are principally concerned with the flow of products and information between supply chain organizations. It includes procurement of materials, transformation of materials into finished products, and distribution of those products to the consumers. The supply chain of different agriculture commodities in India, and more particularly even in Odisha context, are fraught with many challenges, like dominance of small and marginal farmers. We have almost 85% of our farmers are small and marginal farmers in Odisha. There is absence of scale of economies, low level of processing and value addition, inadequacy of marketing infrastructure, transportation and other constraints which I have mentioned. However, as we see the trend in India, the agri supply chains and their management are now evolving to respond to the new marketing realities thrown by the wave of globalization and other internal challenges, like rise in the level of disposable income of consumers, change in the food basket of the consumers towards high value products like fruits, vegetables and animal protein. New challenges in the agriculture economy have now spurred the government agencies to go in for different legal reforms for enabling and inviting private investment in agriculture marketing infrastructure, removing different entry barriers to promote coordinated supply chain. And the amended APMR Act now contains several enabling provisions to promote contract farming, to promote direct marketing, and also to set up the private markets. These measures can work in a long way to provide economies of scale to the small and marginal farmers in establishing direct linkages between farmers and processors, exporters, retailers, and ultimately the consumers. In order to shore up the emergence of professionally managed agri-supply management of different agriculture products, the government has to play basically a facilitating role. Some of the issues which need to be focused are free play of demand and supply forces in the market. This has to be enabled by removing different entry barriers. Already a lot of steps have been taken in this direction. Having a proper market information system, promoting grading and standardization, taking care of quality and safety issues, putting a strong system of risk management and price formation mechanism. Different legal restrictions inhibiting growth of competitive environment need to be dismantled and replaced by a very facilitating legal environment. Infrastructure constraints, they have to be addressed. It will be difficult to arrange sufficient funds from the public exchequer for development of infrastructure facilities. The need of the hour is to explore public-private partnership models. The extension mechanism of the country has been so far production oriented. We have the extension workers under the agriculture department and cooperation other departments basically focused toward production. They are production oriented, relegating the marketing aspects to the background. It is time a proper marketing system is put in place for disseminating information on what to produce, when to sell, where to sell, and on packaging, grading, standardization, transportation, storage, and marketing. With the broad framework for a conducive environment provided by the government side, we expect the private sector should come up in a proactive manner to invest in the agriculture sector, because public investment alone will not spur the growth in this very important sector. The managerial efficiencies which will be brought in by the private sector to the agriculture economy of the country, that will go a long way towards ensuring optimal utilization of the resources, thereby ensuring the sustainable growth of the sector. Strengthening of agriculture will help in upliftment of the farmers, not only upliftment of the farmers, but will also benefit the larger sections of the rural poor who are directly engaged in the agriculture or indirectly linked with agriculture. And it will also help the consumers. Efficient way of production, stabilized prices, higher income from the agriculture would create a more congenial environment in the country, conjugative environment rather, in the country for development of the economy as a whole and of the rural population in particular. Empowerment of particularly small and marginal farmers through education, reforms and development will ensure a better, efficient and strengthened Indian agriculture. New models in marketing along with creating awareness and imparting education will help in development of the sector and more importantly, improving job in the agriculture sector. Thank you for patient hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Verma. A few months back, the state government has come out with a agriculture policy for the year 2014-15. In that policy, I attended that meeting in which Mr. Verma was also there when the policy was presented to all the academia and bankers and all walk of the people. In that policy, a number of issues relating to what we are discussing today were addressed. I am in this state for last 1 year, and during this period I have traveled across the state in almost all the districts. Coming from an agricultural background and coming from a degree with agriculture, what fascinates me is why we are not able to convert monocropping pattern to forget multi-cropping, double cropping pattern. I see no reason why it cannot be done. There is a lot of potential in the state for everything. I just went through a paper a few days back, which was by Deputy Governor Mr. Khan, in which he has given strength and weaknesses of agriculture sector in the state. A few things are very unique. See, I will just read a few of them. It says strength, abundant inland water. But see, what is the irrigation facility we have? So these are the opportunities which needs to be explored. I am sure that our coming panelists will be covering a few of these things which must be in our mind. With this in view, I will be inviting Mr. Padi, Commissioner Cum Secretary, Food Supply. Sir.
Respected panelists and all the delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I'll start with one small experience which I had, which I went through as Collector Kandhamal. Kandhamal traditionally has been producing turmeric and in Odisha, but all along this turmeric is known in the market as Barampur turmeric. Nobody knew that actually where it is being produced. It is being marketed by traders of Barampur, which is the nearest market, Ganjam district. And traditionally, they used to have their people like traders of Barampur who will have links with the traders of Kandhamal in several locations, block headquarters. And these traders will actually give advances to the farmers and ask them to sell the produce. And sometime the trader will go to the village and ask see a field full. Actually, it is sown in the month of April, May, and in July, August, September, when actually it is the difficult time for everybody because the paddy crop is just sown and people don't have rice to eat also. That time the businessman will go to the village and ask that are you ready to sell this to me, to the entire produce, whatever you are going to get from this field, because the turmeric crops will be green and lush, quite the leaves will be very shining and bright, and the farmer will say, okay, I'll sell, no problem. But then how much should I give you for this? The negotiation will be on the price of the turmeric to be produced, say 4 months hence, in the month of December, January, February, because it is a 6 to 8 months crop. So, and they will tell, the farmer will tell, I do not know how much this will come, you tell the price. Then the trader will tell the price and give some advance, rice, some cloth, something, and this fellow will actually dig the crop, and then actually a lot of processing goes into turmeric. What we get in the market, it is not the fresh thing. It is cleaned, then it is boiled, it is dried, polished, and then brought to the market. And after doing all this, the farmer will get to the trader, and counting he will not know, and so basically it's a total exploitation. So this has been agitating, and the mandis, so-called the market yards run by the RMCs, they do not function. Mostly it is the gates which are at the borders which collect the market fees of 1% when the truck goes out from this thing. And turmeric is the biggest income for the RMC located in Baliguda subdivision, that is Tikavali, RMC Tikavali. So all the gates, they will only be collecting on the year. Then there was my predecessor, and the predecessors, Suresh Mahapatra, they started a project improving the breed and this thing of turmeric by a national project under the Jawahar Rozgar Yojana. Then they brought seeds from Kerala, seeds from Meghalaya, those who have higher curcumin content. Curcumin is which gives the color to the turmeric. Production started, but then the problem of marketing continued. It still used to be continued. Then prices, there will be no information on the prices, and prices will be actually sort of fixed between the trader and the farmer much before actually crop comes into the year. So my predecessor Saroj Jha, he fixed a price that turmeric can be sold at 15 rupees, not below. Minimum support price, like a minimum support price. Actually, there is no minimum support price for turmeric or any spice even today. But then in those days, 96, 97, he fixed that price. Then, and he tried to enforce it through the police, through enforcement, other officials, but it did not work in the sense, cannot guard everybody 24/7. So, but then there was some kind of awareness among the farmers that these people are trying to make fool of us, and 15 rupees should be there, could be selling at 12, 13, 10, depending on the place. And outside, then we thought that we should try to break the strangle of these traders. So what we did is we brought in a lot of people, invited a lot of people, invited Spice Board chairman visited Namal, and then we formed a society called Kasam, that is Apex Society for Marketing. We named it Kasam. Then we also got certification done through organic produce for Kandhamal. This organic, that time there was no certification agency in the country. So a deputy director who had gone to a organic congress held in Bangalore few months after my joining, he told, sir, we can certify it, and through agency, Denmark agency called SCAL, and we had to pay them some 4-5 lakh rupees. The Spice Board subsidized quite a bulk of it. Then we got the certification, and we got a lot of traders from other areas, from Delhi, from Patna, from Madras, Erode, and we could break the stranglehold. And we did one more thing. The prices, Spice Board monitors prices in different markets which are selling turmeric, like Nizamabad in Andhra Pradesh, Erode, then Patna, then I think 1 or 2 markets. It gave us the prices. Every week they used to send, and we used to share it across the this thing. And we also started that you should not sell turmeric as soon as it is produced. You should hold it back. Only sell that much as much you require. This is the price. And we started a market yard operation in Raikia, which is center of Kandhamal. And there was a lot of opposition. Farmers will not come to the yard. Traders will not come to the yard. We had to close all the shops that you cannot buy in your shops, and you have to come here. So slowly it started. In the sense we could determine the price. In the sense price discovery through auction and all that. And a lot of effort went into that. And as a result, awareness got, like people got aware. And today, Kasam still survives. Kasam exports not much, I think about 2-3 crores every year, organic products, not only turmeric but also other produce. Like if a place is organic, all produce there is organic. It is not only turmeric, it is not for a crop, it is for the place. So just I wanted to narrate this experience primarily because the kind of problem or challenges we face. Apart from that, we also face a huge set of other problems with respect to land. Nearly 40 to 50% of the land today cultivated are by absentee, are owned by absentee landlords and cultivated by sharecroppers. But the law that we follow, that we are supposed to enforce, Odisha Land Reform Act doesn't recognize sharecropping. In fact, sharecropping is banned except for certain category of so-called landowners, like Lord Jagannath. It is a privileged rights, so it cannot cultivate, so their sharecropping can be given. Or it is a person under disability, like a widow, she cannot cultivate, so her land can be cultivated by somebody else, sharecropper. But apart from that, most of people, those who stay in cities, in towns, they own land back in the village, but they don't cultivate. They give it in share. And as a result, since it is not recognized by law, the sharecroppers do not have any access to credit, access to inputs, so investment actually doesn't happen. So if there is no investment, how can agriculture produce grow? If you don't invest, you cannot really get the output. So this is one of the major flaws in our state as far as land laws are concerned. Secondly, in this context, I must tell you, West Bengal government in 1977, when the Communist Party came to power, they did only one thing. That is called Operation Barga. I think some of you or most of you may be knowing about that. But what exactly they did in Operation Barga? They only recorded. They had camps in every village. They only recorded whose land is there, it is in the land record, ROR, record of rights. But they put another column. Who is cultivating it? Who is the Bargadar? That is, they called it Operation Barga. Who is actually cultivating it? They recorded that name in the ROR. And with that, they also framed a rule that under what circumstances a Bargadar can be removed, under what circumstances, what will be the sharing of crops, sharing of output from this. So with this, the economy flourished in the sense West Bengal became like all the agriculture activities, they went up dramatically, which in early 1970s, some of you remember, collector of Balesur in those days used to stop Madras mail and read it for tons of rice being taken by the mail, by the passenger train, because here the price of rice was 1 rupee, there it was 3 rupees. So the price differential always supply demand, so it will always flow. But then there was barriers, even though people are taking it in passenger trains. But then after that, all their activities, and this one single Operation Burger created a lot of activity in the rural Bengal, and they have prospered agriculturally. Today it is, I think, one of the top agriculture producing states in the country. Though the other problems are there, today it is even not able to procure rice for its PDS, but then that is the inefficiency of the procurement process, not with respect to production. Secondly, it has a huge population. Compared to the land, the population in Bengal is more than 9 crores, and it is not even 50% of Odisha's land, and our population is 4 crores. So compared to land person ratio, the requirement is much more. But despite all this constraint, that land reform created the impetus for agriculture production. Now, this is the second point I wanted to make. Regarding third point, which the main topic, supply chain for development of agriculture production. Unless we have the end-to-end component, like we may produce potato, but if we do not store them, if we do not make it available, it will not be available for distribution. We will continue to have these kind of problems which we are facing today because of whimsical attitude of the political boss of West Bengal. So in such a scenario, what we need to do is that we need to, because today we have presumably stores, cold storage capacity of say about 13-14 lakh quintals of potato, but hardly 2 lakh quintals of potato are in the stores today, and maybe another 2 lakh have been sold out in last 4 months, like since May, when the cold stores open for for distributing potato. It is stored up to till end of April, and from 1st of May it operates. It starts distributing or selling potato. So our capacity utilization of existing cold stores is also much less, and that is another point. So we need to have cultivation in and around the cold storage area, and have activities so that motivate farmers, take demonstrations, so that the production, the farmers can have access to, they can store up their produce, they can sell it as and when the prices go up, and that will be, since it is a cash crop, they will also get cash in time. As mentioned by Rajesh, that and also Mr. Dinesh Kumar, that agriculture is contributing only 20% to the economy, but it is like supporting 60 to 70% of the population. So the farmers will always remain poor. So some of this population actually is not really engaged in agriculture. It is underemployed. We cannot say unemployed because they may be working for 2 months in a year, but then that is underemployment. They don't provide labor throughout the year. They don't work every day in the agriculture. So we need to have capacity. There has to be some impetus. For example, if we want cold storages, setting up a cold storage may not be a big issue, but operating the cold storage is a problem because of the high cost of electricity. The operational cost is quite high. Government could consider looking at providing subsidy for operation, part of the electrical cost. Today, our electricity consumption in agriculture today is less than 1%. We should not make it free, but then we should provide some sort of support if we want to create an activity, create a facility, so that this activity gets a boost, and we get, because agriculture throughout the world is subsidized. It is subsidies given in different form in different countries. It is without support, agriculture is not going to survive, because there are so many vagaries, so many problems. We have this insurance, but then most of the crop insurance is actually an insurance for the loan that the bank gives. It is not an insurance for the crop, for the farmer. And that is the reality on the ground. And there are other issues with respect to insurance. Unless we have supply chain, we really cannot give the financial benefit to the farmer, because farmer should have a choice of selling. If the farmer doesn't have a choice, he has to sell it in distress, then always it will be problematic. Today, if the crop is potato is bought at 6 rupees a kg at the time it is produced, it is being sold at 20 rupees, 25 rupees, 30 rupees, don't know what is the rate to the consumers. So who is taking all this in between? So we need to break this, and we need to have more of intervention, and information is a big thing, and there is a need to break down these barriers. For that, we need to develop the mandis. Today, we do not have a single mandi where we can sell, the farmers can sell actually their produce, vegetables or fruits. There is not a single mandi. Though there are a lot of clusters where agriculture, like horticulture, is going on in a big way, but there is no process in which the price discovery can take place in any of the mandis. So we have to work on this. Our OAPM Act is outdated, 56 or 58. We need to amend that act and have a farmer-friendly act so that farmer can participate in the auction, farmer can bring his produce to the mandi, create facilities where it can be stored. If it is not sold, if the price is not matching to the expectation of the farmer, have the information across what is happening across the country. Because today, not only country but also world has become one village. Information is flowing across the world in matter of nanoseconds, in seconds is more. So we need to develop mandis so as a part of supply chain, and for that I do not know how banks can participate in that, how the store and storing in a whether in a cold storage, banks can give an advance to the farmer to meet his needs. We have this authority created at the center, warehouse regulatory authority, how to link that the so-called objectives of that authority which has been formed basically to do this kind of thing, warehouse receipts, create warehouse receipts, and give farmers the option to sell at a time when he chooses, when the prices are good and which he feels is actually a real price. We have this minimum support price. This is the last thing I want to, what we are doing, I'll just mention a little bit. Minimum support price operations, that is procurement, but Government of India is doing it only in case of paddy and wheat. It is not supporting schemes, though this year we have done about 60,000-70,000 quintals of groundnut and about 8,000 quintals of sunflower under the price support scheme by NAFED, and MARCFED has procured from the farmers for the first time in the state, maybe for the second time, but this time the quantity is quite substantial. Price support scheme is a very good scheme because it gives an assurance to the farmer that government machinery is going to procure it, government machinery is going to give us the this thing. In paddy, we are doing quite a bit of support operation, price support operation, in which Government of India itself is involved. In the sense, for the PDS, it procures the rice and wheat, and this year we have procured about 42 lakh metric tons of paddy, which is about 5,500 crores of rupees. And all this money is from the banks. We have borrowed this money from the banks. Government has not given a single pie from its budget, but then we get the interest from the Government of India also under the this scheme, MSP scheme. So last year we did about 6,500 crores. We dispersed this amount to the farmers, to the account of farmers. So that's a big boost to the economy of the people in the rural areas. And when you look at the operation, it is spread over more than 3,000 mandis, and it involves 1,300 millers, rice millers, and it is the rice is being procured at 300 depots, 300 to 350 depots, both FCI and it is also distributed through about 20,000 dealers. So all this network is basically a supply chain. So if we can have similar chain, we may not have similar, but something like that, if we can procure something and store it, or people have option to store it. Farmers should have option to store it. If they don't have option, they will not cultivate. Potato was being cultivated in much more area, I think more than double area what it is being cultivated today, and our produce about 20 years back. In 90s, we remember hearing about potato in the river bed, Noi Patha Alu Chasa. So in the river bed they used to cultivate, and the quality used to be good and the quantity used to be also good, and because of the sandy soil in the river bed, and a lot of publicity was there, but unfortunately that has reduced, which as a cash crop it should have actually increased, because the demand is going up. As Rajesh mentioned, not only food security but nutritional security is required. Nutritional security not only talks about the carbohydrate that is given under the support like the PDS, but there are other nutrients like proteins, minerals, vitamins, which come from the vegetables and other things. So to give an impetus, we need to have several things. First, I would think that first thing would be have a facility in which the sharecropper has a say, so that he can access or she can access credit. Otherwise, all the things have actually is not going to really work, because landowner is sitting in that city, he has no interest in land, his ancestors cultivated the land, because that in those days land was this thing. They don't want to sell the land because it is some emotion attached, but then they are happy getting whatever is provided by the sharecropper. This is what is the reality is. And sharecropper also doesn't have any interest more than, because he cannot invest more than what, beyond a point. And as a result, going for second crop, as Mr. Dinesh Kumar ji told, after paddy, nothing. But we should go for a second crop, maybe pulses like mung, urad, and or potato, or which doesn't require much water. It doesn't require, and in fact, groundwater exploitation in the state is much less. We need to go for more groundwater and electricity. Since electricity is now going to all villages, this should be possible to exploit more groundwater. Though we have 11% of the groundwater in the country, water resources, as per as the survey, we hardly use even 1% of that. With this, I think I have provided few thoughts to ponder about. Thanks for giving me an opportunity. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Mr. Padhi, for giving us an insight into various issues in the agriculture sector in the state, and for sharing his experiences on various issues. He has given an insight to the very pertinent topic, that is sharecroppers. We do agree that they are deprived of credit facilities because of so many reasons. And he has given the solution also. If you can go for a system which is prevalent in Bengal, we can introduce in this state also. I think bankers can be asked to give credit to this sector also. More or less, we have a scheme for providing credit to sharecroppers in every bank. Maybe in every bank we must be having such kind of schemes, but it doesn't take off because it's very difficult to assess whether they're real sharecroppers or not. So if it can be legalized in some way, we can go for the advancing credit to this sector also. And as regard to infrastructure, maybe it mandi, maybe it storage facilities, he has given a very good example of food supplies, civil supplies department, how they are managing as a supply chain management. They are doing a wonderful job. But this can be done. He himself said that bankers are giving whatever amount is needed for that purpose. Bankers credit can be utilized for other sector also. If a state government wants to develop infrastructure, we are ready to provide credit for that also. So this is up to the government to take benefit of the bankers in these sectors. Now I would request Shri B.K. Mishra, GM NABARD, to deliberate on the issue. He is the right person to say so many things on the today's topic. Mr. Mishra.
The dignitaries on the dais, my august audience, I think Sri Barmaji has already touched upon the topic from the angle of state government for development of infrastructure, logistics arrangements, and Sri Padiji has made it very easy for me to touch the topic of, regarding financing these things. There should be a system for financing the sharecroppers and other things, and he has touched the topic regarding procurement and payment systems and other things. I would like to take the topic forward, and I would like to include all my banker friends with me, because I think most of the people present here are bankers, in addition to some of our NGO colleagues who have been actively promoting people-based, people-managed, people-controlled organizations. As NABARD, we have been in the practice of promoting this people-owned, people-managed, and people-controlled organizations. Be it a cooperative, be it a company, be it a trust, whatever format it is. But our problem starts from there only. Our problem starts from there regarding the legal arrangement for the development of these nascent organizations. When we talk about value addition aggregation, we know that there are two aspects of this value chain management. First aspect is regarding the input supply part of it, for production part. Second part is that of the output management. Output management in the form of processing, packaging, value addition, and marketing. Most of the things what we suggest or do is towards production part only. That's what has already been told. But when you talk about their aggregation, value addition and packaging, we need it separately, altogether a separate set of organizations for doing this. That's what we believe. But this set of organizations cannot be managed alone by the state government, nor by the private sector. So what we would like to promote is people managed as people control organizations. And there is the starting point of our dilemma. Because the correct format for this, what was prevalent in the state, is 2001 Act, which has since been repealed by the state government. Because the formats available are maybe 1820 Trust Act, maybe 1860 Cooperative Act, maybe 1962 Odisha State Cooperative Act. But all these formats, in our opinion, is not suitable for doing a business, running a business enterprise, doing a value addition, doing a marketing. So we have been, after repealment of the act, we have been wondering actually, and we are in the process of funding and supporting either through grant or through loan or a mix of both, to many of these organizations who have been registered and promoted under this SHG, Self-Help Cooperative Act. But with the repealment of that act, we have been advising them to go for either of the format. And we are finding it difficult in both the formats. Because we talk about the producer companies, registration as a producer company, it is slightly cumbersome and it takes a long time, maybe for a period of 6 months to 8 months. And it is very difficult for them to have these small farmers or marginal producers to really to go through this process. The only alternative available is 1962 Act. So that is exactly the starting point. Maybe our friends will be urging upon the state government to reconsider their option regarding what format actually we should go for running a business enterprise. That is starting point. So a second point from the banker side, I will tell you regarding the funding arrangement. To run any business enterprise, we need a support for continuous funding arrangement, like any other factory or mining activity or shipping activity or anything of that sort. But this is one enterprise wherein the nascent cooperatives or nascent producer groups, we would like them to come up. But the funding arrangement, I think none of our banker friends will agree, none of our banker friends will have a system of funding a nascent cooperative or a nascent federation or a nascent organization which does not have audited balance sheet, which does not have an asset base, which does not have a past business history to show, then how this enterprise is going to come up? How this enterprise can be nurtured? We're talking about aggregation and value addition to create a supply chain. But how these enterprises are going to come up? Luckily, Government of India has already identified this is a priority area in the recent budget, union budget. They have said 2,000 such producer companies or producer organizations will be promoted in a period of 3 years, and they have made some funding arrangement for that. But that part of funding is for the promotion of these groups. But how about the funding these entities? I think some of the feedback we would like to have from our banker friends, how they can go out funding in nascent cooperatives or nascent federations or nascent organizations. This is one area we have been doing. We have done some experiment. We have done some tree grower cooperative. We have given some onion growing federations. We have given to some fishermen involved in fisheries activities. But see, NABARD is not an institution which is supposed to do the ground level lending. We would like to invite our bankers friends to come up to lend to these nascent organizations, nascent cooperatives or nascent federations. So they would like to throw something. So this is one of the area, one of the issue. Another issue is the quantum of business that a cooperative or a federation or an organization should grow with a given framework of 3 to 5 years to make it self-sustainable or viable. What we call in technical parlance is bankability or viability or whatever we say. See, till that time, it requires a viability gap funding. Any organization to come up to a certain level of business to earn itself for self-funding it, make it sustainable. Initially, there will be losses. For your information, NABARD has been funding some of the cooperatives which are still incurring losses. Their balance sheet is in red. But still we are giving on an experimental basis. But this is only token. Can we have some system in our banking that we make a real appraisal of this kind of prospective entities and give them some funding when the funding for viability gap funding is arranged? So I do not find in our government, whatever policy we have, agri policy, I have gone through the agri policy. We have got a large number of 63 or 69 different activities, wherein large number of activities you find in our policies related to your supply chain management. Maybe around 20 or 25 activities are there which is related to supply chain management, indirectly or directly. This is a very good step. But only issue is we do not have a system for the viability gap funding for the initial cooperatives or initial federations. So that kind of arrangement, somewhere it can be done. It can prosper, push the aggregation and supply chain management issues. We made some empirical studies on the supply chain management, and Sir has already directed the story of Kasam in Kandhamal, his long experience in that. We made a very small beginning with beetle vine in Jagatsinghpur, Baleshwar. And what we found is, ultimately what prices the farmers get is 36% of the total, the final price, that is delivery price. 43% is taken by the middleman, and 11% is regarding administrative and processing, and small losses are also there in between. So this is the price distribution system. So ultimately, by doing this value chain management and bringing the small farmers together, we would like to increase this 36% share to something maybe above 50% or maybe around 60%, something of that range. That 36% should go to at least more than 50% should be realized by our producers. So that is what is the aim of this conclave maybe. And that leads a lot of enabling environments and people. Some 1 week, 10 days back, I was in Jharsuguda and I was evaluating one of the same producer cooperatives there regarding their functionality and how they are going ahead. They had already registered themselves in a producer company as well. Then I was asking about the funding issues. The same thing I was asking. I'll tell you, they themselves are doing microfinance business. They themselves are giving. Then I told, what about the ground level situation? The ground level situation, I said, sir, as per our money lenders, there are 3 fortnights in a month. There are 3 fortnights. They charge interest for 3 fortnights. Their interest is charged on a fortnight basis. On a monthly basis, the interest charge they charge for 3 fortnights. ମୁଁ ତାଙ୍କୁ ପଚାରିଲି କ'ଣ 3ଟା ଫର୍ଟନାଇଟ୍ କୋର୍ଟ ଶୁକ୍ଳପକ୍ଷ କୃଷ୍ଣପକ୍ଷ ସମସ୍ତେ ଜାଣିଛନ୍ତି କହିଲେ ସାର୍ ତୃତୀୟ ପକ୍ଷ ସାର୍ କହୁଛି ପିତୃପକ୍ଷ. So this is the way the people are exploited at the ground level, which we are talking about. These people who are in need of money, either for production or for processing or for marketing or for aggregation. So I would like my banker friends to have a very positive contribution towards really funding, making a funding arrangement for this ground level, base level aggregation and value addition. If we give the example of Kandhamal, I had luckily 1 month back I had visited Ballyguda area and other areas also. There the mango was selling at the rate of 15 to 20 rupees. The best quality Amrapali mango, which is being produced under the Wadi program of NABARD. We have been wondering what to do with so much production. Lot of lemon is there, lot of mango is there. But the same mango will be selling at 40 rupees or 45 rupees or 50 rupees in Bhubaneswar. It is, if it can be aggregated and brought to Bhubaneswar. So this is the plight of people who are producing. This time I think the plight of people regarding the producers of our groundnut crop, in particularly Jajpur district, I think that has prompted our state government to step in a very big way and procure from the farmers. Really this has given a boost. But one thing, sir, I would just like to mention again for policy consideration is regarding linking of procurement to recovery of bank loans, which is missing at present. When we are talking about a tripartite arrangement or 4 parties are there, somebody is funding, somebody is processing, somebody else is procuring for marketing, the money is realized. And money, everything is now channelized through bank accounts. It is very clear, transparent. Nobody denies that. No cash transaction is there, at least when we are talking about institutional level arrangements. But why we can't have a system of linking the procurement to marketing so that our banker friends will be in a comfort zone of funding a particular procurement and value addition activity. I think this is for a policy, state government has to do it. From our side, we have been advocating this for quite some time. This is prevalent in other states, nearby states. For example, they can take it in Punjab. In Chhattisgarh, it is prevalent. Recovery of bank loans through a tripartite arrangement when the procurement is done and the support prices are given, credited. So that arrangement, I think, will go in a long way in case of promotion of this value chain management. One more issue just I will point out, that regarding support services. Support services, that is, this is the third part. One is finance, one is the intermediaries or the producers, marketeers and other thing. The third part is support services. Support services are basically of 2 types, which is must for this value chain, progress of this value chain. One is regarding technical services, technical inputs, and second is regarding your market information. So these 2 very strong network we would like to have in both these areas. Technical inputs, there is a facility from ICAR and other institute in the form of KVK and other things, and we have got agriculture up to the ground level, horticulture department, other departments are giving support service, but that needs to be strengthened. Second thing is ICT based support services, that is what is now required for really going for a real price discovery mechanism by the farmers. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I think I have thrown quite a number of issues to be discussed. Thank you.
On his one suggestion, one point, when he was referring to the funding arrangement for these cooperatives or the groups he is forming for procurement purposes, I do not think that there is any difficulty in any bank for financing to the units or the bodies who have no past histories. We do not require a past history for financing, because we are financing to the greenfield projects or new ventures also, maybe small or big. So that is not the issue. Our next panelist is Mr. R.K. Swain, DGM Canara Bank. He will be covering a few issues relating to banks also, I presume. Mr. Swain.
Esteemed dignitaries on the dais, my fellow bankers, esteemed customers and friends from media fraternity. In fact, we have discussing this supply chain management in an appropriate time when almost all the local dailies since last few days they are covering that hundred of truckloads are at the border. Public are not allowed to enter those trucks carrying potato to our state from West Bengal, and this side our people are not allowing fish and other vegetables to reach West Bengal, thereby causing lot of hardship to both the people of both the states. Sometimes we get solace from Commissioner's statement that potato at reasonable price, it will be supplied through NAFED, so there is no need to panic. That gives a reasonable solace. The supply chain management, we are discussing really at appropriate time. The definition says that it is the movement of materials as they flow from their source to the end customer. That means from farmers to fork, for farmers field to fork. And lot of activities are there in supply chain, but broadly it can be classified into two. Harvesting, pre-harvesting stage and post-harvesting stage. Pre-harvesting stage, seeds, fertilizers, consisting of the supply chain, seeds, high-yielding seeds to be supplied to the farmers, and we are having one research OUAT university. Besides that, several research stations owned by governments, they are doing this job. From monocropping system, we must switch over to either double cropping or triple cropping. That will certainly increase our yield. And the duration of the crop should be reduced. We should not adopt long duration crop. If at all we are raising crops of 90 days, let it be preponed to 60 days. That will help us in raising monocrops. And moreover, agriculture, it is not considered as a profit venture in our state. This attitude has to be changed. As Sir has told that nearly 2/3 of the population depends on agriculture, and next to mining sector, agriculture is the second contributory sector to our state's economy. The supply chain includes purchasing, manufacturing, warehousing, transportation, customer service, demand planning, supply planning, and supply chains management. It made up of the people, activities, information, and resources involved in moving a product from supplier to customer. After 1965, the successive governments, both at the center and state, they have given utmost priority to agriculture sector, and thereby country has attained almost self-sufficiency. I need not enter to the data because previous speakers have already deliberated. Our country is the largest producer of milk, livestock, sugar, tea, and cauliflower. We are the second largest producer of rice, wheat, fruit, vegetables, and tobacco. Having attained self-sufficiency, we also see some of the from media that tons of tons wheat, they germinate at the railway yard at Udaipur, Azmir, like that. With gunny bags, lot of paddy germinates while before transporting and at the stocking under the sky. Our agriculture is having both strength and weaknesses. The strength are we are having large consumer base, wide network of regulated markets. Of course, regulated markets are more in Punjab, and it is the number is highest in Punjab. 105 square kilometer density it is there, and whereas it is Meghalaya, it is the least, 11,250 square kilometer is there. Then diversified agricultural commodity base, rise in household income, enhanced demand for high value foods and FMCG products. Simultaneously, our agriculture do have weaknesses like high post-harvest wastage and transport cost, density of market, it varies from state to state, multiple intermediaries, as many as 5 to 6 members, they involve themselves in the supply chain. This creates the supply chain longer and allow the more damage to the producers. Low price realization by the farmers, lack of adequate scientific storage facilities near to the farm. Sir has told that because we are having good number of rivers and earlier farmers, they used to cultivate potato. But gradually customers, they have opted out of potato because potato it is a cash incentive crop. Farmers, they purchase fertilizer seeds at high cost. Even though Seeds Corporation of Odisha, they supply with a lot of subsidy. After growing, what happens? Due to lack of storage facilities, number one, and due to retention capacity of our farmers, number two, they sell it at distress price. That is why gradually our farmers are not showing interest for potato cultivation, even though high-yielding varieties like Kupri, Chandramukhi, Kupri Safaida, etc. are available from the neighboring states. That is one thing. And the farmers do not get appropriate price. So, support price system for various crops, it must be determined. This supply chain management, it encounters with various conflicts at various levels. Farmers, they are interested to get maximum price of their produce, which hardly happens. And for higher production, they need high-yielding varieties of seeds, simultaneously fertilizer, etc. But whether our farmers are sufficient enough to purchase from their own, no. For that, bankers, we are coming forward, and there is no dearth of fund. In the first plenary session already, Mr. H.R. Khanna has told that our state is having CD ratio. Low CD ratio entails that there is high scope for finance. That means we are mobilizing resources in the state of Odisha and deploying elsewhere. At manufacturers, they see that they want to purchase at lower price and high-end specific quality. Traders and retailers, they think that lower purchase price and they are interested for high margin. Consumer, they demand for good quality with freshness. This all calls for an efficient market information and sound market-led extension to enhance farm income and quality produce to consumer and reasonable price. Recently, January, our Government of Odisha Agriculture Department, they have published agricultural policy, and it is one of the robust policy in our country. It can definitely make this farming a profitable venture. Since 1965, through Green Revolution, particularly wheat and rice, after that Operation Flood started, sufficiency in milk. Then after that Blue Revolution for development of pisciculture. All through successive government, the policy planners, they have made our country full sufficient. There may be some lacuna in storing facilities, and already our government, state government, in collaboration with FCI, 16 godowns, rural godowns of 5,000 ton capacities in 15 different places under private entrepreneurship module. They are going to construct, and others, I think Civil Supply Corporation, as many as 60 godowns of 2,500 tons capacity will be constructed. Huge subsidy is involved through NABARD. And this activity may change the storing scenario of our country. Another thing I want to tell you, the fertilizer. Fertilizer plants are comparatively less in our state. Talcher fertilizer we used to have in our high school days. It has been stopped. So if it revives, definitely it will give employment and it will supply fertilizer to our state. And then price, market regulated price. I think neutral bodies must be promoted to determine price. Then government must formulate rule to take on the hoarders, because hoarding activity, it increases prices. These are the some posers I want to give. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swain. Now I would like to invite questions from the house. While throwing questions, please introduce yourself and also mention to whom your question is addressed to.
Respected panelists, my question related to Mr. Pahadi. Sir, you have mentioned regarding mandis. Prior to joining this state, I was in Rajasthan, and in Rajasthan there is a chain of mandis. That is almost every 50-60 kilometers they are having one mandis, so that farmers should not move maximum 30 to 35 kilometers for selling the produce. They are having one act also. No agriculture produce can be sold outside mandi, and in mandi even it is to be sold by auction only. And the day it is auction, in the evening it is to be paid by cash, not by the check or anybody. So farmers are getting very good price. There, what is the benefit of it? So there remains so many adatiyas there. The banks are ready to finance to the farmers even for without any mortgage through adatiyas, because adatiya stands guarantor. They will sell the produce of the farmers, and what happens in that? The adatiyas are getting 2 or 3% commission as decided by the government, and they are auctioning that produce of the agriculturist in their field. So agriculturists are also getting the suitable price, and bankers are getting repayment immediately and secured, that is lending, number one. Number two, that is in what is happening in Odisha, that is while calculating that is unit cost of the, that is ticket size of the lending in the crop, almost 30,000 to 40,000, 50,000. The reason is that being that what we have observed in Rajasthan, repeatedly I am comparing with the Rajasthan, excuse me, that is there in every, that is their land record, Khatian, they are calling Khatian. If every year we are getting from the Tahsildar, and in each and every Khatian, they are mentioning last 3 years what type of the crops in that, how much area they were cultivating. So that is unit cost becomes very easy for the bankers to calculate, because some of them are producing like jeera, spices. So that is cost is very high. So always farmers are getting higher loan, number one. Number two, state government is also having record how much acres are being cultivated, jeeras, how much of the paddy and everything, so that they can also plan like that. And bankers can also plan for the particular area that is acres wise. If this Aditya system is prevailing, then for smaller farmers, those who cannot go for the warehousing storage, they are getting also better price, because Aditya in turn they are lending also. Because they will be getting 3% at the time of the crop, so they are lending by taking the bank loan from the bank and subsequently to the farmers. So we, our request is that type of chain, and this all these mandis are being managed by the committee, which is by elected from the farmers itself. So that system can be developed at least for the Khatian or land record, so that all bankers will have the comfort for the higher lending. Thank you.
Thank you. This is actually not being done in Odisha. Our land record is only the record of rights. It is only mentions the landowner only, and it also mentions the Kisam, the type of land and things like that. But then it doesn't have, some states have this, like as you mentioned, Rajasthan, Karnataka also has that, and every year they update that. The farmers has to update that which land is being utilized for which crop. So Tahsildar, Tahsil office has the record, and the state government has the record, and bank also has access to that, and by that crop loan financing becomes much easier. Arthya is basically a middleman, and it is prevalent in Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, and Government of India is always insisting that the Arthya system should be done away with. And we have our societies, that is primary agriculture cooperative societies, who act as commission agents for us, who procure on behalf of the state agencies like Supply Corporation, and they get that commission, 2.5% commission they get. But for procuring paddy in Punjab and Haryana and Rajasthan, the Arthyas are 2.5%. So Government of India is insisting that we should do away with the Arthyas, but then Arthyas do a lot of other works also. They provide lot of services to the farmers. They like farmers trust them, like in the time of need they go to them, and for any emergency, for hospital, marriage, etc. Arthyas are their sort of friend, philosopher and guide, and there is a lot of trust. No, we can develop that system, Arthya system. First we have to develop the mandis and auction system. That is not happening. That is the key issue. Once we start this process, then only if auctions starts in some mandis, then only farmers will get higher price and price discovery and price dissemination. And if price dissemination is there, farmers will get information that this is selling at this price. So that price should be given, not less. So he will hold up, he will not come. So as a result, price will, actually that is a very good system. But then if mandi start functioning, then a lot of other problems will get solved in the process.
My question is to Mr. Rajesh Verma. Sharecropping is illegal, no more legal. No more, it is never legal. But we all know at the same time that it is going on rampantly everywhere in Odisha. So to do away with this open anomaly, can the government of Odisha come out with an enactment that those owners who are not actually cultivating their land continuously for the last 25 years will not be regarded as the owner of that land?
It is aware of all these sharecropping and other issues, and something is being worked out. But I am not aware of the details because Revenue Department deals with this.
Now it's time. While thanking our eminent panelist, Shri Rajesh Verma, Principal Secretary Agriculture, Shri M.S. Padi, Commissioner cum Secretary Food Supplies, Shri B.K. Mishra, General Manager NABARD, Shri R.K. Swain, DGM Canara Bank. I'd also like to thank the delegates and the bankers present here for their participation in the session. The session has given insight into various issues and thrown various point of thoughts. We can think on those points. I can take forward. I am sure our eminent panelists, mainly Shri Verma and Mr. Padi, will take the cue and see if few of the things can be implemented in the state for the betterment of the rural poor. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, all of you. Well, indeed, it was a very mandatory topic to be discussed on. Now, I'll be just having someone very valuable on the stage to give away the token of appreciation to all the mentors as well as the speakers here. So, I'll be requesting Mr. P.K. Jaina, Regional Director, RBI, to be on the stage, please. And one by one, I'll be taking the name of the speaker as well as the mentor. And the first one goes to Shri Rajesh Verma, IAS, Principal Secretary, Agriculture. Shri Madhusudan Padi, Secretary, Department of Food Supplies and Consumer Welfare. Shri D.K. Mishra, DGM NABARD. Shri R.K. Swain, DGM Canara Bank. And last but never the least, Shri Dinesh Kumar, DGM Allahabad Bank, and who also served as a moderator. Thank you so much, all of you.